Imagine a country that was once poor, struggling, and largely unknown to the world. Now, picture that same country rising to incredible wealth almost overnight. This is the story of Guyana. In just a few short years, Guyana has gone from being a small nation in South America with very little to one of the fastest growing economies in the world. In this video, we'll explore how Guyana's got so insanely rich, their management skills, and what the future holds for this nation. Let's get started. To start off, let's take a moment to look at how it all began. Guyana's story wasn't always one of riches and was far from the rich nation we see today. It is a small South American country often overshadowed by its larger neighbors. After gaining independence from Britain in 1966, the country faced many challenges. For years, Guyana relied heavily on agriculture, especially sugar, rice, and mining for resources like gold and bauxite. These industries were the backbone of the economy, but they weren't enough to lift the country out of poverty. Most of the population struggled to make ends meet, and the country had very little infrastructure, which meant that economic progress was slow. In the 1970s and 1980s, Guyana's economy remained weak. Political instability and corruption made things even worse. Many people were leaving the country, seeking better opportunities elsewhere. By the late 1990s, Guyana's GDP was very low, and the country had one of the highest poverty rates in South America. It seemed like nothing could pull Guyana out of its economic struggles. However, little did they know that a game changer was on the horizon, something hidden off the coast that would transform their fortunes a way few could have predicted. So let's take a look at what really changed the game for Guyana. In 2015, something extraordinary happened. ExxonMobil, a giant oil company in America, made a massive discovery in the deep waters of the Atlantic Ocean, off the coast of Guyana. They found one of the largest oil reserves in the world in the Brink block. This discovery changed everything for Guyana. Before oil, the country had very little international attention, but now, all eyes were on Guyana. Oil production began in 2019, and within just a few years, Guyana's economy exploded. In 2020 alone, Guyana's economy grew by 43.5%, one of the highest growth rates in the world. This was just the beginning. Economists predicted that Guyana's GDP would continue to grow at an incredible rate, potentially reaching as high as 25% growth annually for several years. Before oil, Guyana had an average GDP of around $3 billion. Now, with the oil boom, some experts estimate that by 2025, Guyana's GDP could soar to over $13 billion, with oil production reaching 1 million barrels per day. Oil isn't just any resource, it's one of the most valuable resources in the world. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Norway, and Venezuela have built their entire economies around oil production. For Guyana, discovering oil was like finding gold. The country's offshore oil reserves are so large that Guyana could soon become one of the top oil producers in Latin America. Many countries have oil and are not nearly as rich as Guyana. The key to Guyana's success lies in how they managed their oil wealth. One of the smartest things Guyana ever did with its oil wealth was to establish a partnership. Following the discovery, Guyana's government quickly set up partnerships with ExxonMobil, Hess Corporation, and China's CNOOC to develop the oil fields. These companies invested billions of dollars into Guyana, building offshore drilling platforms and pipelines to transport the oil. As oil money started flowing into the country, it created jobs, improved infrastructure, and increased government revenue. With this new wealth, Guyana began to invest in schools, hospitals, and roads, all of which had been neglected for years. This massive inflow of money was a game changer for the country. Foreign investment has also played a huge part in Guyana's transformation. Oil companies have poured billions into the country to extract valuable oil reserves. ExxonMobil alone has spent more than $20 billion in Guyana to develop the Brink block, creating thousands of jobs for locals. Additionally, foreign governments and businesses see Guyana as a prime location for new investments. With oil production booming, investors from around the world are lining up to invest in the country's growing economy. These investments are not just in oil, but also in sectors like agriculture, infrastructure, and technology. With more foreign investment comes more job opportunities for the Guyanese people, which means higher incomes, better living standards, and more development across the country. The future looks bright for Guyana as foreign money continues to flow into the country. In addition to saving for the future, Guyana has been focusing on improving infrastructure, healthcare, and education using the oil revenue. Roads are being built, schools are expanding, and healthcare services are improving, bringing about tangible benefits for its citizens. Guyana's oil boom is unlike anything the country has ever seen before. Within just a few short years, the country went from being one of the poorest nations in South America to one of the fastest growing economies in the world. The oil industry is not only creating jobs, but also transforming the entire landscape of the country. In the capital city, Georgetown, new buildings, hotels, and restaurants are popping up, reflecting the country's growing wealth. People from other countries are moving to Guyana to work in the oil fields or start new businesses, which is increasing the population and boosting the local economy. In 2020, Guyana exported over $1.2 billion worth of oil, and that number is expected to grow every year. By 2025, oil could account for more than 60% of the country's GDP. The oil industry is also attracting skilled workers from around the world, bringing new expertise and technology into the country. One of the big challenges that comes with oil wealth is making sure it benefits the entire country, not just a small group of people. Many countries that discovered oil ended up facing a resource curse, where the wealth from oil only led to corruption, inequality, and environmental damage. Therefore, transparency and smart governance are crucial in ensuring Guyana's long-term success. Guyana is looking to avoid this fate by learning from countries like Norway. Norway, which discovered oil in the 1960s, is one of the wealthiest countries in the world today. But they didn't just spend all the oil money. Instead, Norway created a sovereign wealth fund, which invested the oil money in long-term projects like education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Today, Norway's wealth fund is worth over $1 trillion, benefiting future generations. Guyana is following a similar path. The government has set up its own sovereign wealth fund to manage the oil revenue and invest in long-term projects. The idea is to make sure that the wealth from oil doesn't disappear once the oil runs out, and that future generations of Guyanese people can benefit from it. In addition to saving for the future, Guyana is also looking to diversify its economy by expanding other key sectors such as shipping, fishing, and technology. Its strategic location on the Atlantic coast has made shipping an important industry, especially with the new oil fields drawing international attention. Guyana is expected to become a hub for shipping and logistics in the region, similar to how Norway has leveraged its maritime position. Fishing remains an important sector, with the country's waters rich in marine life. Guyana exports seafood, particularly shrimp and fish, to international markets, contributing to its growing economy. The government is also exploring ways to modernize and expand its fishing industry while ensuring sustainability. In terms of technology, the government has started investing in innovation and education. Guyana hopes to foster a tech sector that could further diversify its economy, providing jobs and new opportunities for its younger population. With a focus on education and tech startups, Guyana is positioning itself as a forward-thinking nation, not just relying on oil, but also looking ahead to the industries of tomorrow. Despite the incredible growth, Guyana still faces challenges. One of the biggest concerns is the environment. Extracting oil from offshore reserves can be risky, and there's always a chance of oil spills, which can damage the fragile ecosystem along Guyana's coast, thereby leading to environmental degradation. Guyana must balance its oil industry with the need to protect its natural environment, which is home to vast rainforests, rivers, and diverse wildlife. There are also concerns about political corruption. With so much money flowing into the country, there's a risk that the wealth could be mismanaged, or that politicians could use it for personal gain. This is a problem that many resource-rich countries face, and Guyana is no exception. However, critics warn that if Guyana isn't careful, it could fall victim to the resource curse, a phenomenon where countries with abundant natural resources experience economic instability or corruption. Additionally, while the oil boom has created wealth, not everyone is benefiting equally. Many people in rural areas still live in poverty, and there's a growing divide between the rich and the poor. If the government doesn't take action to distribute the wealth fairly, this inequality could lead to social unrest in the future. One of the biggest questions is whether Guyana can sustain its wealth in the long term. Even though Guyana's economy is now heavily reliant on oil, the country is already thinking ahead to the future, where it won't need to depend solely on fossil fuels. Like Norway, Guyana is beginning to invest in renewable energy sources, such as hydropower and solar energy. The country's abundant rivers make it an ideal location for hydropower projects, which could supply a significant portion of the country's electricity in the coming years. Additionally, Guyana's position near the equator means it has a lot of potential for solar energy development. With the right investments, these renewable energy sources could eventually replace oil as the backbone of Guyana's economy, ensuring a more sustainable future. But for now, oil remains the biggest driver of economic growth. If managed properly, Guyana has the potential to become a major player not only in South America, but on the global stage. However, the country will need to address the challenges of corruption, inequality, and environmental concerns if it wants to secure its future. There you have it. While Guyana is currently enjoying the benefits of its newfound oil wealth, the future remains uncertain. Will the wealth be distributed fairly, or will it only benefit a small group of elites? Could environmental risks and corruption undo all the progress the country has made? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more fascinating content. Thanks for watching.